hello everyone. This is Show and Tell Prospecting, and I'm Ron.
And I'm Dave.
How you doing, Dave? It's been a while.
Great. Good to see you back.
Yeah. We all know that one of the things that we like to do is go out hunting for treasures. And if you're not looking,
you're not finding.
Yeah, that's true, David. We get perhaps a little too much joy looking, and when we find something, well, that's good too as well.
Right. You end up finding yourself accumulating a lot of different things that you just find interesting.
That's absolutely true. And I understand today you've got like 3 items to share with us that's kind of interesting, and maybe some of them are historical.
Yes.
You might even say
I got some gems I'd like to share.
Yeah, well, you might even say that some of the finds are golden. We'll get to that, right?
Yep.
All right.
You got it, Ron.
So, is there anything new in terms of new places that you've gone to recently in your hunt and your prospecting?
Well, I found something recently on one of my hunts at an antique mall, and that's what I'd like to share with you first.
Sure. Well, that's not unusual. You go into antique malls. Well, go ahead. Tell us about it and show us.
So let's take a look at what I've got for you. This I found among a bunch of costume jewelry in an antique mall. So you're going through a bunch of stuff and you're kind of looking and you're like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff here. This stood out for some obvious reasons that you can see here. We've got TCU for Texas Christian University, and it's enameled, and this is a gold football. It's been enameled in white and purple. And then below that is below the threads, you can see 1916. So this was for a what would you call that? A favor?
A charm?
Commemorating
something, perhaps? What's that H.S. Vaughn on the back?
So here we've got H.S. Vaughn. And H.S. Vaughn is the name of a student who played for TCU on the football team in 1916 and 1917. Now, it is my understanding that I believe it was Howard Shorty Vaughn that he played football for him as well as baseball. And after 1917, he took the captaincy of the baseball team. So he devoted his time to leading the baseball team and dropped his role with the football team.
So he was a dual sports individual until he started playing baseball. Well, people make these dual athletes. Sometimes they make the decision about where is my longest career going to be if I'm going to play professional sports. And football players are notorious for having maybe 3 to 5 years in the league. If you have more than that, it's a rare thing. But baseball, if you're good, you can play for the team 10, 15 years. Or there's even been players play longer than that.
So this is a really unique piece. It would have been made as a charm perhaps for the player's girlfriend or mother. I imagine. I don't really. Perhaps the player wore them themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing I was going to say earlier, Dave. There's 2 ways of looking at that. One is when we were in junior high and high school, we would get these little charms and things made up for very special games, and we would wear them on game day if we weren't playing. And of course, the other students would. And then we would put them away in our keepsake drawers. So it could be at the time that this occurred. But then again, there are other things that goes on in schools that are commemorated, and there's observances of like special days, alumni days, when people come back to school and they have these things that they give away or they could purchase for those days. So this could be a couple of things, but it does look like that perhaps it is meaningful to any student at TCU, given TCU's long history in playing football and in the Southwest Conference, not the Big Eight or the Big Ten or Big 12 that followed it. They migrated over to that later league after the Southwest Conference broke up in the early 90s, I think it was. I'm a big Southwest Conference fan because my team are, of course, the Razorbacks. And there were great games played between the Razorbacks and TCU and Texas and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I could see the attractiveness of it. So, what do you think something like that might be worth?
Yeah. So and let's talk about what this might be valued. I would put a minimum expectation on this of $100. Uh,
Really?
yes, and I've seen examples that is very similar to this one at 300, and I found one example at 1,000.
Wow.
So,
Now, were
I,
these of other
mhm.
teams or other players?
Right, other teams and other players, ones that were inscribed with similar desirable teams, went for the higher amount, and ones that had been inscribed for a player as well. So I would probably place the value on this at around $300 myself,
Mhm.
with perhaps hopes for possibility of higher expectations.
Yeah. So, did you find any direct comparables on it? I'm just curious.
Certainly, I found direct comparable at the $300 range.
Wow, that's a great find, David. And you found it in a box of jewelry, costume jewelry at an estate sale?
No, at an antique mall.
Oh, and an
Yeah,
antique
I
mall.
mean, you'll find because of people at the antique mall, they get their material from estate sales as well, and
Hmm.
garage sales, and maybe some of it might be their own, but
Yeah.
they get it somewhere, so they're finding it, and they have to do something with it, and
Yeah.
it's I was able to locate this in a box of costume jewelry that just happened to look at and saw a few pieces.
Well, the thing I have to say about that is sometimes people sell things at a price unknowing of the true value of what that is
Right.
because of its history. And it's good for the buyer, for the hunter, so to speak, for the prospector. And you're always able to find treasure if you look hard enough. And then you run across the sellers, especially this occurs at garage sales, where they know what it's worth retail wise and they're asking retail prices at a garage sale. That's the wrong venue to do that because people expect a deal when they go to a garage sale. Well, that's interesting.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So this is gold. I'm not sure what grade. I'm sure it is, whether it's plated or uh, which I don't know if this is
it
more
probably
solid or a plated piece, but it is a very beautiful piece.
is it
Um,
marked anywhere on it? Because
I
even if
didn't.
it's gold plated, it would probably have like something like gold filled stamps on it, that sort of thing.
Well, I did look, and I did not find any other markings other than uh, the the inscriptions on it,
Okay,
the
very good.
net
Okay,
enameled sections. So
what's
that's my first piece there to share with you. It's got some football. It's got some history. It's got some local sports lore, and then it's also got its natural gold value
yeah?
or value as a piece,
So
historical
it
piece.
checks many boxes, is what you're saying.
Yes, it has very layers of interest, right?
Sure. Of course, that's what you always look for. You always talk
Yes.
about how many different boxes does it check? The sports box, the collectible, the just the value, the aesthetics of it. That all good. Okay, what
Yes,
else?
yes. So um, let's talk about one of the most, to me, the most, I think, interesting pieces that I have. One of the ones that I find most valuable is a carved wooden chain.
Yeah, kind of just show it in front of. That's interesting. It's all carved. Is it carved from one piece?
It is carved from one piece.
Uh, you're off camera now with it. Okay, very good.
A
Very
little bit
good.
difficult to show,
Yeah.
but let's take a look at the ball and cage.
Now that ball was not inserted in that block, was it?
No, it was carved from the middle of the block. You can see the little tiny cuts made on the ball to make it round.
How about that? How
You
about
can
that?
see the little, just the, that is the art of whittling. And for me, what this represents is it's almost like a self test to prove oneself in the mastery of the art.
You sound
And
like you're
that's,
from the South saying that's the art of whittling,
yes,
because that's what we would say. We
that is the
whittled
art
that.
of whittling. It is an outstanding example of somebody showing you the mastery of the art of
Yeah.
whittling.
I had a cousin. He's actually my mother's cousin. He's no longer with us, but he carved things like that. But he also carved walking canes, and he made these wonderful walking canes with marbles inserted in a cage. And we always wondered how he got the marbles in the cage. And later on, he told us he would soak the wood, make it a little pliable, insert the marbles, and then dry the wood out. And we were amazed that it came out the way it looked.
So there's a cylinder in a cage,
Now, is
and
that
and
free?
this,
Is that cylinder free to move?
yes, the cylinder is free to move, just like the ball. The cylinder is free to move, and you can see the individual knife marks on it, and just like the ball. Now, here's an interesting part here to share with you. This was intended, as I'm sure this end was here, to become something. So the artist of this particular piece did not finish it.
Well, you think that was intentional, though?
No. Uh, Personally, I think it may have been that the person may have passed away before they were able to finish it. I think
Well,
they had every intention of finishing it.
let me propose this to you, just as a way of
But I'm
looking at
guessing,
this.
Ron.
Yeah, let's say that there is a possibility, since the piece appears to be stained and everything else is finished. It seems to me that it could be that the artist, the carver, the whittler left that portion of it unfinished for those who might take it on and possess it after they've done with it, to show how it was done.
Well, I
Maybe.
don't believe that this is actually stained, Ron. It
Well, if you look at the piece that he carved, go back to the piece and hold that up that
it's
he was
just
carving. You see the
this
lighter
is
wood
like
in there?
oils from the hand of handling it over the years.
I think it might have been stained. Just looking at it, that would be my opinion.
I mean,
Again, we don't know for sure, right?
oh no, but I see a lot of rough areas where stain would have absorbed into, that had had looked like they had been relatively freshly carved.
Mm-hmm.
Like this piece in here, uh, and you can see that it doesn't have the shine to it. And I believe that's just because over all the years of handling it, as he's developing his craft of whittling and carving here, that it slowly stained the wood.
Yeah,
from handling.
could be, but it does look like a wax finish to it or something to me. It's just my view of it. But in any case, it is a beautiful piece of artwork.
Yeah, my favorite piece because it represents Americana
Absolutely. Yeah.
and kind of the South. Kind of reminds me of something that you might relate to, uh, say, the Smoky Mountains or
Sure.
Appalachian.
Hmm. A lot of
Uh,
carvers over there. That's true.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
So,
this is something that I think. Of course, I actually found this at an estate sale
mhm.
locally, but that doesn't mean that it didn't come from somewhere else.
Well, I came to Texas from Orlando, Florida. I
Right,
transferred with the company I worked
right.
for back in 2001, 2002. So, yeah, there's probably more non-Texans now where I live than Texans. But in any case, it's understandable. So, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you think how much did it cost you?
I think I paid like $8 for this piece.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, for me, it seems I feel like it's my most valuable piece because I just have an affinity for the time and patience and planning and effort that went into making this piece.
Yeah. Any research done on the comps at all?
Uh, yeah, they're kind of it's like anything else. It's worth what anybody will pay, right?
Mhm. We know it's
And
worth at
that's
least $8, right?
yes, it's definitely worth that to me.
Mhm.
And I've looked at similar pieces. Um, there are simpler ones that probably go anywhere from 30 to 60. I feel this is $100 plus, uh, perhaps 500. I don't know, but maybe I'm exaggerating what I feel is the value.
Yeah, it seems to me that it might be a bit much up in that range. I can see where people would be interested in an art form, and if it were signed, I would say definitely it would be worth, perhaps 100 plus. But being unsigned and unattributed, perhaps it's just a fine example of somebody, just a regular person like you and I, who had a hobby of carving and they loved doing it, and this is what they produced. Uh, that would be my take on
Well, let me get you a stick of wood, Ron.
it.
I hear you've got plenty of knives over there.
Yeah, I do. I do have a good knife collection, and
Let's
maybe
see
we could
what you
show
can
that
do.
at some point. Yeah. But in any case, however, you do have something fairly golden that you're going to share last, kind of maybe the best of the rest, right?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So, this, what I've got coming up here is an estate sale find. And it was, don't always go around looking at rocks, but at this particular estate sale, there were a lot of rocks, and I have an interest in it. So I bought one. I think I paid $1 for it. Uh, and after I looked at it really closely, I went back, and unfortunately, its brothers and sisters had already been picked up. So uh, a little bit of buyer's remorse, and then I didn't get its brothers and sisters, but I was very pleased that I was able to find this particular piece.
So while you're getting things arranged, I have gone to estate sales and found some beautiful examples of obsidian out in the garden. And I'd go to the estate seller and say, "Are the stones being sold as well, or the rocks?" And they would say yes. And I would get great value. I found chrysocolla, blocks of chrysocolla, turquoise, etc. So there's no telling what you're going to find. And by the way, I'm a lapidarist. I do cut stone. And so when I find those types of stones out in the wild, so to speak, while we're prospecting, I'll grab them and, of course, pay for them and bring them home and add them to my stock. David, that one is kind of a gray silver looking one. Now there's a hint of a gold speck or something in there. Can you just pick it up and bring it close to the camera?
Yeah, I'm trying to get some, which is not a very.
Now hold it right there. Go back in the light. Okay. I don't know what type of materials is in there, but you know when you have silver ore, it is a dark grayish, shotgunish looking color. There's metallization in there. Is it heavy?
Oh, it's very heavy.
Okay. Now, if you could bring it just to keep it in the light, because when it goes out of light, you can tell. I don't know if you can stabilize it and hold it still, but I'm using my cursor, and hopefully the people can see my cursor. But right up in here, just before you go into the lip of that cavity, there is like gold specks. And then up in the cavity, there appears to be more gold color. Now you're
Let
way
me
too you're way too
let
off
me
center.
get this stabilized,
Yeah.
and then
Maybe you
I'll,
can set
I'll
it down and rotate it. Yeah. But right there, I can, well, it's no longer in the light. It's just harder to see. Perhaps if I had it here with my microscope, I could actually, yeah, I pointed that out, those gold areas right in there. And you and I had a conversation about this. There's not any structure to it. If there were like little cubic structures to it, I would say it's pyrite. But that gold looks like it's a flowing in a little bit of a seam, and that would suggest to me that it is perhaps specks of gold in there.
So, were you able to get any kind of view on that?
Not the shadows didn't really highlight the gold color. I'm wondering if you could point the camera down to the agate slat and then put that on there, and then do you have a flashlight that you can
Yeah.
shine on it and shine into it? Let it get in focus. Okay, it's in focus right there. Oops.
Oh,
You break it, you buy it.
right.
Yeah, just have it set up there so we can see into it. Okay, right there. That's good. Now get a flashlight if you've got one and shine it on that part that is really golden. You can see it good right now, but we need to see a little more color, I think.
Yes.
Okay, uh, right there. Hold it right there if it'll focus. Not sure that. Okay, can you tilt the specimen a little bit toward me, toward the camera? Tilt it. Okay, now move it to your left, I think. Move it to your left so we can see that. Okay, now shine that light on it. So hold it right there. Right in this area, I'm using the cursor. Right in that area is I guess it's a seam of gold. It's like globulars of gold in the seam. And then over here toward the side, you can see more. And then back up in here, if you had it in hand, I've seen it physically, that there's gold all through this area up in here. So now tell us a little bit, David, about how you found it.
This particular piece found at an estate sale. Uh, like I said, it was a crazy one. Looked like the guy had been an engineer, and he had had an interest in music, had an interest in rock, apparently rock and roll. But he had bins and bins of rock. Apparently he had traveled all over the United States, collecting rock samples as he went. Which anybody that's a bit of a rock hound knows that because they do it themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
do you
this
think he
was
was a geologist?
he may have been. I suspect he either did that as a hobby or as maybe as a career.
Mhm.
As
I've
part of
been
it.
to an estate sale of a gentleman. He had passed, unfortunately, and his heirs were selling off the contents of the house. And he was a geologist working for the Geological Survey, I think it was called. But there were beautiful specimens in his house. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's all very interesting, David. I think we're at a point where we probably want to wrap it up. So you were out there at different times and you found some very interesting items. What would you say to our viewers in this particular episode about hunting?
Well, that you have to be open to a lot of different things when you're out there looking, prospecting. Uh, what you find that's a treasure may not be, you'll know when you see it. It's not something that you're necessarily looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be open in your mind in just finding some hidden values in
Right.
uh, items that people pass over as common in ordinary everyday.
Yeah. So sometimes I go out looking for very specific things, and then other times I'm just out there to see what treasures can be found. And in that regard, you're amazed at what people are selling. I have a one of those old AC/DC voltmeters, the large black phenolic type that was used at NASA down in Houston. I bought it from an individual who was having a garage sale, and his father had worked down there back in the 70s, I guess it was. And so it's a treasure that I have, and I have it up in my office at work. But you never know what you're going to find. And I think as we wrap this episode up, that's the message to the viewer. If you're not out there looking, you're not going to find anything of value, or you're not going to find your treasure. Okay, I think that's it, Dave. Final comments,
Well,
final
thank you,
words?
Ron. Yeah, just wanted to share these unique individual pieces with you. We will have a reveal later on. I do intend on breaking this rock down that has the gold in it. So perhaps we can see a little bit more of what's inside the
Yeah, it
rock.
would be good to get it essayed. Right. Yeah.
Right, right. I don't hold out a lot of hope for thousands of ounces in a rock this size, but it's just really unique to see rock, gold in situ, and that uh, it really gives you an idea of what you would be looking for if you were out there mining,
Yeah.
or prospecting in the real world, so to speak, geologically.
Okay. Well, we'll call it a wrap with that. Thank you all for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. So remember, if you're not looking, you're not
You're not
wanted.
finding.
Absolutely. Hey guys, take care and all the best.